You're here because you've felt it, that relentless tug of war inside your head, the voice that screams ambition against the whisper of self-doubt, the promise of success battling the reality of procrastination, and the thrill of momentum fading into the grind of mediocrity. The brutal truth is this: most people live their entire lives chained to motivation's fickle mood swings. They start strong, burn bright, then fade when things get hard. But that's not going to be you, not anymore. What if your goals weren't a gamble on motivation, luck, or perfect timing? What if you could hardwire unstoppable consistency into your very DNA? That's exactly what the grit-focused game plan, hit ambitious goals on autopilot, is designed to do. This isn't another feel-good motivation fix. It's your new operating system, a system powered by grit, fueled by precision, and engineered to turn ambitious dreams into inevitable realities. Research proves it. People with high grit are 54% more likely to succeed than their equally smart but less gritty peers. They don't rely on willpower. They lean on strategy, systems, and structured daily wins. They aren't fazed by setbacks, distractions, or boredom. They thrive in them. Because they've built a machine that turns friction into fuel, challenges into opportunities, and ambition into autopilot execution. This book is your blueprint, your battle plan, your step-by-step guide. It's the difference between being the person who had potential and the one who turned potential into profit, promise into performance, and goals into guaranteed results. The tools inside these pages aren't theory. They're field-tested, battle-hardened, and proven by those who've soared past mediocrity. You have a choice right now. Keep spinning your wheels, hoping motivation will return tomorrow, or build something deeper, stronger, more reliable, something that propels you forward whether you feel like it or not. Your dreams deserve better than half efforts and false starts. Your future demands consistency, clarity, and relentless progress. So dive in, commit, execute, because once your grit engine is running, nothing, no distraction, no obstacle, no temporary setback can stand in your way. Chapter 1, Grit Engine. Your heart pounds at 3 a.m. as another deadline slips through your fingers like sand. You've got the talent, the resources, the perfect plan, yet somehow you're still stuck watching others surge past you while your biggest ambitions collect dust. What separates the relentless few who crush every target from the talented many who flame out when things get hard? The answer isn't intelligence, it isn't luck, it's grit. Grit is the compound force that marries long-term passion to day-by-day perseverance. While others chase shiny objects or quit when boredom strikes, grit-powered individuals lock onto their obsession and refuse to let go. Research tracking 11,258 West Point cadets revealed that those one standard deviation higher in grit were 54% more likely to survive the brutal beast barracks training, outperforming both IQ and physical aptitude as predictors of success. Think of grit as your execution engine. Everything else in this book, the goal frameworks, the habit systems, the feedback loops, they're just fuel lines and pistons. Without the engine, you've got a beautiful machine that never moves. Here's what you'll build by the end of this chapter. A 3-year obsession so compelling it makes every other commitment secondary. A quarterly grit ladder that converts that obsession into 12-week checkpoints. And a daily 60-second ritual that locks emotional intensity into your morning routine. The transformation starts with passion clarification. You need one future state sentence that scares you a little, something that makes your pulse quicken when you say it aloud. Not a vague wish like "be successful," but a specific, vivid declaration that pulls you forward even when motivation dies. Next comes perseverance mapping. That scary sentence gets broken down into quarterly milestones, monthly targets, and weekly mile markers. This isn't just planning, it's creating a visible roadmap that exploits your brain's natural tendency to accelerate as you approach rewards. Finally, you install a daily obsession cue. Place that future state sentence where your eyes land every sunrise, your bathroom mirror, your phone lock screen, your coffee mug. This leverages identity priming. Your brain acts consistent with what it sees most. Why this specific sequence? Because passion without a roadmap equals heat without direction. Lots of energy, zero progress. But a roadmap without passion becomes a dust-dry checklist that dies the moment you hit resistance. You need both, and you need them welded together. Over time, this grit engine creates compounded perseverance that shrinks your procrastination windows from hours to minutes. You develop an automatic bias toward finishing hard tasks before touching dopamine-easy distractions. Colleagues start calling you the closer, the person who finishes what others abandon. The world is divided into two types of people: those who start strong and fade when things get boring, and those who start strong and accelerate when things get hard. The first group blames circumstances, timing, or bad luck. The second group builds grit engines that run independent of external conditions. You have two choices. You can keep relying on motivation, that unreliable friend who shows up when you don't need help and vanishes when you do. Or you can build something deeper, something that endures setbacks, boredom, and the inevitable plateaus that kill most ambitions. The grit engine doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if the market shifts or if your competition gets lucky. It runs on obsession fuel and perseverance mechanics, converting every obstacle into forward momentum. But even the most powerful engine needs precise targets to aim at. Raw drive without clear direction is just expensive spinning. In our next chapter, Goal Targets, you'll discover how to translate your sky-high dreams into crystal-clear finish lines that tell you instantly whether you're winning or drifting, and why most people's goals are actually sabotaging their success before they even begin. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Goal Targets. Picture two ambitious professionals with identical skills, identical resources, and identical drive. Both declare they want to dominate their industry this year. Fast forward 12 months. One has tripled their revenue and earned a promotion, while the other is still working towards success with nothing concrete to show for it. What made the difference? The winner understood something the loser missed entirely. Dreams without targets are just expensive daydreams. Most people think they're setting goals when they're actually setting wishes. I want to be successful. I want to grow my business. I want to get ahead. These aren't goals. They're mental fog that invites endless loopholes and excuses. Your brain can't hit what it can't see clearly. Real targets work differently. They scream at you from the scoreboard, demanding immediate answers. Are you winning or losing? Are you ahead of pace or falling behind? There's no hiding, no rationalizing, no comfortable gray area where mediocrity lives. The secret lies in transforming vague objectives into what elite organizations call key results. Ruthless, numeric milestones that eliminate wiggle room. When Google implemented this framework across their product teams, cycle times dropped by 25% because suddenly everyone knew exactly what winning looked like. Here's how the transformation works. You start with one emotionally charged objective, something that makes your pulse quicken when you say it aloud. Not improve performance, but become the go-to expert clients fight to hire. Not grow revenue, but build a business that runs profitably without me. Then comes the crucial step most people skip. You attach 3 quantified key results that prove your objective is happening. These aren't activity metrics like send more emails or attend networking events. Those are vanity metrics that let you feel busy while accomplishing nothing. Real key results measure outcomes you can't fake. If your objective is becoming the go-to expert, your key results might be securing 5 speaking engagements, landing 3 feature articles, and generating 50 inbound inquiries. If it's building a self-running business, you might target 90% of revenue from recurring clients, 15% profit margin, and operating 3 full weeks without daily involvement. Notice something powerful here. These numbers force clarity. You can't pretend you're making progress when the scoreboard shows zeros. You can't rationalize poor performance when the deadline approaches and your metrics haven't moved. The targets eliminate the comfortable lies we tell ourselves about making progress. But targets without accountability are just numbers on paper. That's why you need a weekly traffic light review, a brutal, honest assessment where every key result gets rated green, yellow, or red. Green means you're on track. Yellow means you're falling behind, but recoverable. Red means you're in crisis mode and need immediate corrective action. This weekly ritual weaponizes peer pressure and public commitment. When you know you'll have to face those red lights every Friday evening, your behavior during the week shifts dramatically. Suddenly, checking social media feels less appealing when your key results are bleeding red. The magic happens when you stack these cycles. Hit 70% of your key results consistently, and you're already outperforming most professionals. Greenlight all your targets, and you can start pulling next quarter's work forward. Outperform your key results early, and you become the person others study to understand how success really works. Most people fail because they either set vanity metrics that don't matter, overstuff their targets with too many priorities, or forget to review progress until it's too late. The solution is surgical focus, 3 key results maximum, behavioral metrics only, and weekly reviews tied to an existing ritual you already do. But even the most precise targets can fail if they conflict with who you believe yourself to be. In our next chapter, you'll discover why the most successful people don't just change their goals, they change something far more fundamental about themselves, something that makes achieving those targets feel inevitable rather than forced. Chapter 3, Identity Shift. You've set the targets, you've built the grid engine, you know exactly what winning looks like on the scoreboard. So why do you still find yourself sabotaging your own progress when no one's watching? The answer lies in a battle most people never realize they're fighting, the war between who you're trying to become and who you believe you are right now. Every action you take casts a vote, not for your goals, not for your targets, but for your identity. When you hit snooze instead of getting up early, you vote for, I am someone who struggles with discipline. When you check social media during deep work time, you vote for, I am someone who gets distracted easily. When you avoid difficult conversations, you vote for, I am someone who avoids conflict. Here's what's fascinating. Your brain doesn't care about your ambitious goals if they conflict with your self-story. Actions that violate who you believe yourself to be die fast, no matter how much willpower you throw at them. But align your story with your actions, and friction collapses almost instantly. Stanford researchers discovered this principle in a deceptively simple experiment. They asked people to vote in an upcoming election, but with a twist. Half were asked, how important is it to you to vote? The other half were asked, how important is it to you to be a voter? That tiny shift, from doing to being, increased voter turnout by 15%. The difference? Voting is something you do. Being a voter is who you are. And people will go to extraordinary lengths to act consistent with their identity, even when no one's watching. This is why most goal setting fails. You're trying to force new behaviors onto an old identity. It's like installing high-performance software on outdated hardware. The system crashes under pressure every time. The solution isn't more willpower. It's an identity shift that makes your target behaviors feel inevitable rather than forced. Start by crafting 3 I am declarations linked directly to your key results. Not I want to be or I'm trying to become, but present tense identity statements that feel slightly uncomfortable to say aloud. I am someone who finishes what they start. I am someone who delivers exceptional work ahead of deadline. I am someone who turns obstacles into opportunities. But declarations alone are just wishful thinking. You need micro-proof, small daily actions that reinforce your new identity. If you're claiming I am a closer, then send one follow-up before lunch every day. If you're declaring I am someone who prioritizes deep work, then protect the first 2 hours of your day from distractions. Each micro-proof casts another vote for your new identity. Miss a day, and you vote for the old version of yourself. String together a week of consistent votes, and something shifts. Your brain starts believing the story you're telling it. The transformation happens faster than you expect. Within 2 weeks, actions that once required massive willpower start feeling 10% easier. Within a month, others begin labeling you by your new identity without prompting. By quarter end, old conflicting habits often melt away without conscious effort because they no longer match who you've become. Track your votes each night with a simple tally in your phone. Not your goals, not your tasks, but your identity-consistent actions. How many times did I act like the person I'm becoming today? This isn't about perfection, it's about momentum. You're not trying to win every vote, just win more votes than you lose. Most people fail because they choose identities that are too broad or skip the daily vote counting ritual. I'm successful means nothing to your brain. I finish key projects 2 days before deadline gives your subconscious something concrete to work with. But even the strongest identity can crumble under pressure if you haven't prepared for the inevitable moments when everything goes wrong. In our next chapter, you'll discover how to build an invisible armor that makes the right choices automatic, even when chaos strikes and your willpower is running on empty. Chapter 4, If-Then Armor. It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Your energy is crashing, your inbox is exploding, and that critical project deadline is breathing down your neck. In this moment of maximum pressure, you face a choice that will determine whether you're a winner or just another person with good intentions. Will you push through the resistance and do what matters most? Or will you take the easy path, check social media, reorganize your desk, or suddenly decide this is the perfect time to research that random topic that popped into your head? For most people, willpower decides this battle, and willpower loses more often than it wins, especially when you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. But there's a different way to fight, one that doesn't rely on your fluctuating motivation or dwindling mental energy. The secret lies in something psychologists call implementation intentions, but I call it armor. Invisible, unbreakable armor that deflects temptation and chaos before they can touch your focus. Here's how it works. Instead of hoping you'll make the right choice in the heat of the moment, you pre-decide your response to specific triggers. You create if-then scripts that bypass conscious decision-making entirely. When the trigger appears, your brain automatically executes the predetermined response without burning a single calorie of willpower. A meta-analysis of 94 independent studies revealed something remarkable. People using these if-then scripts doubled their goal achievement rates, jumping from 46% to 91% success. That's not a marginal improvement. That's the difference between chronic frustration and consistent victory. Think about the moments when you typically derail. Maybe it's when your phone buzzes with a notification during deep work. Maybe it's when you feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start. Maybe it's when someone interrupts you with an urgent request that isn't actually urgent. These aren't random events, they're predictable patterns. And predictable patterns can be armored against. The construction process is deceptively simple. First, identify your 5 most common derailing cues. Be specific, not when I get distracted, but when Slack notification pops up on my screen. Not when I feel stressed, but when I have 3 competing deadlines and don't know which to tackle first. Then, for each cue, write a matching if-then response in 10 words or less. If Slack notification pops up, then I mute for 30 minutes. If 3 deadlines compete, then I tackle the shortest one first. If someone says quick question, then I say, let me finish this thought first. The power lies in the specificity. Vague scripts like, if I get distracted, then I'll refocus, are useless because your brain doesn't know what distracted looks like or what refocus means. But if phone buzzes during deep work, then I flip it face down without looking, creates a neural pathway your subconscious can execute automatically. Practice these scripts through rapid-fire rehearsal. Visualize the cue appearing, then immediately shout your response aloud. Do this 5 times in a row for each script. You're literally programming your nervous system to respond without conscious thought. The transformation happens faster than you expect. Within a week, reactive procrastination starts dropping by an hour per day. Within a month, you're executing your scripts automatically under pressure, By quarter end, colleagues start remarking on your unshakable focus because you're no longer derailed by the chaos that stops everyone else. Most people fail because they create too many scripts or make them too vague. Limit yourself to 3 high-impact cues initially. Master those, then add more. And always include sensory details, what you'll see, hear, or feel when the trigger appears. But even the most sophisticated armor has gaps. And the most dangerous attacks don't come from external chaos. They come from the optimistic blind spots in your own planning. In our next chapter, you'll discover why positive thinking can be your worst enemy and how to transform rosy fantasies into bulletproof strategies that actually work when reality punches back. Chapter 5, WOOP Power. You're fired up. The vision is crystal clear. You can practically taste the success waiting at the finish line. Your mind paints vivid pictures of triumph, the promotion, the recognition, the moment when all your hard work finally pays off. Then reality hits like a freight train. The obstacles you never saw coming, the internal resistance you didn't plan for, the gap between your rosy fantasies and the brutal truth of execution. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Positive thinking can be your worst enemy. Not because optimism is bad, but because optimism without obstacle awareness breeds catastrophic failure. Your brain gets so intoxicated by the fantasy of success that it forgets to prepare for the inevitable roadblocks ahead. Most motivational advice tells you to visualize success and believe in yourself. But research reveals a darker truth. People who spend time fantasizing about positive outcomes without considering obstacles actually perform worse than those who don't visualize at all. The fantasy satisfies your brain's reward system prematurely, reducing the motivation to do the actual work. But there's a way to harness the power of positive visualization while armoring yourself against reality's inevitable punches. It's called WOOP, and it transforms dangerous optimism into bulletproof execution plans. WOOP stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan. It's mental contrasting with implementation intentions, a 4-step process that forces your brain to toggle between the dream and the nightmare, between the vision and the roadblock, until you've built a bridge that can handle both. Start with your wish, 6 words or less that capture what you want to achieve. Not a paragraph, not a manifesto, just a crisp statement that cuts through the noise. Land the promotion this quarter. Launch the side business successfully. Deliver the presentation flawlessly. Next comes the outcome visualization, a 60-second sensory movie of what success looks, sounds, and feels like. But here's the crucial part. You're not just imagining generic success. You're creating a specific, vivid experience that your nervous system can almost taste. The handshake when you get the promotion, the first dollar of revenue from your business, the applause after your presentation. This is where most people stop. They're high on the fantasy, convinced they've done the mental work necessary for success. But you're just getting started. Now comes the obstacle spotlight, the part that separates dreamers from achievers. You identify the internal blocker most likely to derail your progress. Not external obstacles like market conditions or other people's decisions, but the self-controlled resistance that lives inside your own head. Maybe it's your tendency to procrastinate when tasks feel overwhelming. Maybe it's your habit of second-guessing yourself before important decisions. Maybe it's your pattern of avoiding difficult conversations that need to happen for progress to occur. The key word here is internal. External obstacles are largely outside your control, but internal obstacles are where your power lives. This is where you can actually build defenses. Finally, you create your plan, a specific if-then implementation intention that connects the obstacle to a predetermined response. If I feel overwhelmed by the project scope, then I'll break it into 3 25-minute work blocks. If I start second-guessing my presentation content, then I'll practice it aloud 3 times. If I want to avoid the difficult conversation, then I'll schedule it for tomorrow morning before I can overthink it. When high school students used written WOOP protocols, they completed 60% more practice exam questions than their peers. The difference wasn't talent or motivation, it was obstacle awareness paired with predetermined responses. The magic happens when you compress this entire cycle into 60 seconds. Wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. You can WOOP any initiative, any challenge, any goal in the time it takes to walk from your car to the office. But even the most sophisticated planning can fail if you can't see progress happening in real time. In our next chapter, you'll discover why your brain has a hidden sprint button that only activates under very specific conditions, and how to hack this ancient wiring to make every goal feel closer than it actually is. Chapter 6, Gradient Pull. You start every project like a rocket ship, energy blazing, momentum building, confidence soaring. Then somewhere around the middle, something sinister happens. The initial excitement fades. Progress feels invisible. The finish line seems impossibly far away. Welcome to the valley of death that kills 70% of all ambitious initiatives. But what if I told you there's a hidden switch in your brain, a sprint button that activates automatically when specific conditions are met? And what if you could flip that switch at will, making any goal feel closer and more achievable than it actually is? The secret lies in understanding how your ancient wiring responds to perceived distance. Your brain doesn't care about actual progress, it cares about visible progress. It doesn't respond to real proximity, it responds to felt proximity. And once you learn to manipulate these perceptions, you can hack your own motivation system. Researchers discovered this phenomenon in a deceptively simple experiment. They gave coffee shop customers loyalty cards requiring 10 stamps for a free drink. But here's the twist. Half received fresh 10-stamp cards, while the other half received 12-stamp cards with 2 stamps already filled in. Both groups needed exactly 10 purchases to earn their reward. The pre-stamped group completed their cards 19% faster. Same effort required, same reward waiting, but the illusion of a head start triggered something powerful in their brains. They felt closer to the finish line, so they sprinted harder toward it. This is the goal gradient effect in action. Your brain's tendency to accelerate effort as perceived distance to reward shrinks. It's the same reason you walk faster as you approach your destination, work harder as deadlines loom, and feel energized during the final stretch of any challenge. The problem with most goals is they're structured like endless marathons instead of visible sprints. You set a target for 3 months away and expect steady motivation for 90 straight days. But your brain doesn't work that way. It needs frequent finish lines, visible milestones, and the illusion that you're always closer than you think. Here's how to engineer this effect into any project. Take your 30-day target and break it into 15 checkboxes instead of 30. Immediately pre-check 2 boxes to simulate a head start. Now your brain sees 13 remaining steps instead of 30, and you've already got momentum before you begin. But the real magic happens when you make progress hypervisible. Most people track completion, what they've finished, but your brain responds more powerfully to proximity, how close you are to the next milestone. Instead of, I've completed 6 out of 15 tasks, think, I'm only 2 tasks away from hitting the halfway point. Create verbal progress chains that you recite each night. Not just your current streak length, but your distance to the next checkpoint. Day 7 of my writing streak, 3 days away from my first milestone. Completed 4 client calls this week, 1 away from my weekly target. This trains your brain to see proximity everywhere. The transformation is immediate and measurable. Time to completion typically shrinks by 10% within the first week as your brain starts responding to artificial urgency. Beat a few early deadlines and the momentum compounds. Soon you're consistently finishing ahead of schedule because your motivation system is firing on all cylinders. You can stack multiple progress bar projects without burnout because each one feeds energy into the others. Success breeds success when your brain is constantly celebrating proximity to rewards. Most people fail because they make progress invisible or overload themselves with too many tracking systems. Keep your progress bars on your phone lock screen where you'll see them dozens of times per day, and limit yourself to 3 active goals maximum. Your brain can't sprint toward everything simultaneously. But even the most sophisticated progress tracking can't save you if you're working on the wrong things entirely. In our next chapter, you'll discover why most people exhaust themselves climbing ladders leaned against the wrong walls, and how one strategic habit can automatically align everything else in your life without conscious effort. Chapter 7: Keystone Moves. You're drowning in good habits. Morning routines, evening reviews, productivity systems, goal tracking spreadsheets. Your life has become an exhausting collection of micro-optimizations that somehow leave you feeling more scattered than before. What if everything you've been taught about habit formation is backwards? What if instead of adding more behaviors to your already overloaded schedule, you could install one strategic habit that automatically fixes everything else? Most people approach change like they're renovating a house room by room, upgrading the kitchen, then the bathroom, then the bedroom, hoping it all comes together eventually. But master builders know a different secret. Identify the load-bearing wall, and everything else falls into place. Your life has load-bearing habits too. Keystone habits that act like dominoes, tip one over, and 20 others topple automatically without conscious effort. Change the keystone, and behaviors you've struggled with for years suddenly align themselves as if by magic. The power lies in understanding how habits create cascading effects throughout your entire system. When you nail one strategic behavior consistently, it doesn't just improve that single area, it triggers a chain reaction that upgrades your identity, your environment, and your automatic responses across multiple domains. Think about the friction zones in your daily routine. Those moments when everything goes sideways, when small problems snowball into major chaos, when you find yourself fighting the same battles over and over again. These aren't random events. They're symptoms of a deeper structural problem. Maybe your mornings are chaotic because you never prepare the night before. Maybe your work quality suffers because you constantly switch between tasks without finishing anything. Maybe your relationships strain because you're always running late and feeling overwhelmed. Here's what's fascinating. These seemingly separate problems often trace back to a single bottleneck habit. Fix the bottleneck, and the downstream chaos disappears automatically. The identification process is surprisingly simple. Spend 2 minutes speaking aloud every daily friction point you can think of. Don't filter, don't organize, just brain dump everything that creates stress, delay, or frustration in your routine. Then look for the pattern. Which single behavior, if changed, would eliminate the most downstream problems? Maybe it's checking your phone first thing in the morning, which derails your focus for the entire day. Maybe it's failing to review tomorrow's priorities before leaving the office, which guarantees chaotic mornings. Maybe it's saying yes to every request without considering your existing commitments. Once you've identified your Keystone candidate, design a 5-minute replacement ritual that directly addresses the bottleneck. Not a complex system, not a major lifestyle overhaul, just one small behavior that plugs the leak, causing all the downstream flooding. The magic happens during the 21-day installation period. Track your streak religiously, shouting the number aloud each night before bed. This isn't just accountability, it's identity reinforcement. You're not just changing a behavior, you're becoming the type of person who follows through on commitments. Within a week, you'll notice the first friction zone disappearing. Within 2 weeks, colleagues start commenting on your improved consistency. By day 21, multiple metrics, quality, speed, morale, often spike upward simultaneously because you've fixed the root cause instead of treating symptoms. The compound effect is remarkable. Teams start copying your Keystone because they can see the results. Your reputation shifts from works hard to gets things done effortlessly. People begin asking what changed, but you can't easily explain that one tiny habit reorganized your entire operating system. Most people fail because they choose keystones that are too large or get demoralized when they miss a day. Keep your Keystone under 5 minutes and treat missed days as data points, not failures. Log partial credit and restart the next morning. Momentum matters more than perfection. But even the most powerful keystone habit can fail if it's not connected to a larger system that measures what matters most. In our next chapter, you'll discover why the most successful people don't just build good habits, they build something far more sophisticated that turns strategy into an unstoppable drumbeat of execution. Chapter 8, 4DX Drive. Your strategy is brilliant. Your goals are crystal clear. Your team is motivated and ready to execute. Then Monday morning hits and the whirlwind begins. Urgent emails flood your inbox. Quick meetings multiply like viruses. Fires demand immediate attention. By Friday, you've worked harder than ever, but made zero progress on what actually matters most. Sound familiar? Welcome to the execution gap that kills more dreams than lack of talent, resources, or opportunity combined. It's not that you don't know what to do, it's that the urgent always drowns out the important, leaving your wildly important goals gasping for air in a sea of daily chaos. But what if there was a way to create an execution drumbeat so powerful that it cuts through any whirlwind? A system that transforms your most critical objectives from wishful thinking into unstoppable momentum. The answer lies in understanding why most execution fails. People confuse activity with achievement, motion with progress, being busy with being effective. They track everything except what moves the needle. They meet constantly, but never commit to specific actions. They set goals, but never build the disciplined cadence that turns strategy into reality. The 4 disciplines of execution solve this problem by creating what I call laser focus in a hurricane. While chaos swirls around you, you maintain unwavering attention on the few activities that create disproportionate results. It starts with brutal prioritization. Not 3 important goals, not 5 critical initiatives, but one wildly important goal that makes everything else secondary. This isn't about ignoring other responsibilities. It's about acknowledging that human beings can only sustain intense focus on one breakthrough objective at a time. Your wig must pass the clarity test. If someone wakes you up at 3 a.m. and asks what you're trying to achieve, you can state it in one sentence without hesitation. Increase recurring revenue to $500K by December 31st. Launch the new product line with 1,000 paying customers by quarter end. Reduce client churn to under 5% within 6 months. But here's where most people stumble. They try to track their wig directly. Revenue, customers, churn rates, these are lag measures, results that show up after the game is over. By the time you see them moving, it's too late to course correct. The breakthrough comes from identifying lead measures, the few activities you can influence weekly that predict your lag results. If your wig is recurring revenue, your lead measures might be qualified discovery calls completed and proposal follow-ups sent. If it's product launch success, you might track user feedback sessions conducted and feature iterations completed. Lead measures have 2 characteristics. They're predictive of your wig, and you can influence them directly. You can't force someone to buy, but you can control how many qualified prospects you call. You can't guarantee product success, but you can control how much user feedback you collect. Next comes the scoreboard, a public, glance-able display that shows your lead measure performance in real time. Not buried in a spreadsheet, not hidden in a dashboard, but visible to everyone who matters. Your brain responds differently when the score is public and immediate. The final discipline is the weekly accountability huddle, a brief, focused meeting where you review last week's lead measure performance and commit to specific actions for the coming week. No status updates, no long discussions, just 3 questions. What did we commit to do? How did we perform? What will we commit to do next week? Teams applying this framework hit their lead measures 63% of the time versus 29% for controls, with revenue increases approaching 30%. The difference isn't talent or resources, it's disciplined execution cadence that survives any whirlwind. Most people fail because they choose lag measures as leads or let huddles drift into hour-long status meetings. Keep your lead measures controllable and your huddles under 7 minutes with a hard timer. But even the most disciplined execution system can plateau without one final ingredient, a mechanism that turns every cycle into smarter, faster progress than the last. In our final chapter, you'll discover how to build a self-improving machine that gets stronger with every iteration, ensuring your success compounds rather than stagnates. Chapter 9, Feedback Loop. You've built the engine. You've set the targets. You've shifted your identity and armored yourself against chaos. You've transformed optimism into bulletproof plans, hacked your motivation curves, installed Keystone habits, and created laser focus that cuts through any whirlwind. But here's what separates the good from the legendary: the ability to turn every execution cycle into faster, smarter, self-correcting momentum. To build a machine that doesn't just achieve goals, it gets better at achieving goals with every iteration. Most people plateau because they treat success as a destination rather than a feedback system. They hit their targets, celebrate briefly, then start the next cycle from scratch. But elite performers understand something profound. Every win contains data that can accelerate the next win. Every failure contains intelligence that can prevent future failures. The secret lies in creating what I call a self-improving flywheel, a closed-loop system where each cycle feeds energy and intelligence into the next, creating compound momentum that has no theoretical ceiling. Think about the most successful people you know. They don't just work harder than everyone else. They work smarter with each passing month. Their decision-making accelerates. Their execution becomes more precise. Their ability to navigate complexity grows exponentially. They're not just achieving more, they're becoming more capable of achievement. This transformation happens through deliberate feedback loops that most people never install. Instead of moving from goal to goal in linear fashion, they create spirals of improvement where each cycle builds on the lessons of the last. The framework is deceptively simple: plan, do, check, act. But the magic lies in how you compress this cycle into a daily rhythm that compounds over time. Each evening, you plan tomorrow's single biggest lever action, the one move that will create the most progress toward your wildly important goal. Not a to-do list, not a schedule, just one high-impact action that you'll execute before noon. The next day, you do exactly what you planned. No exceptions, no negotiations, no "I'll do it later." Before noon means before noon. This builds the neural pathway between intention and execution that separates winners from wishers. At day's end, you check your result against your plan. Did you execute as intended? Did the action create the expected outcome? What worked better than anticipated? What worked worse? This isn't self-judgment, it's data collection. Finally, you act on that data by adjusting tomorrow's plan. Maybe you discovered that morning calls convert better than afternoon calls. Maybe you learned that breaking big tasks into smaller chunks eliminates procrastination. Maybe you found that certain environments boost your focus while others drain it. Each cycle makes you slightly smarter about what works and what doesn't. Each iteration tightens your execution precision. Each loop builds compound intelligence that accelerates future performance. Within 3 months, your cycle time drops by 20% because you've eliminated the friction points that used to slow you down. Within 6 months, your compound skill edge becomes visible to leadership because you're consistently delivering results others can't match. Within a year, you're positioned for the promotion, revenue leap, or venture scale that seemed impossible when you started. But the real transformation goes deeper than professional success. Consistent execution breeds trust in every relationship. When you say you'll do something, people believe you because your track record speaks louder than your words. Partners, teams, and clients start relying on your word as a guarantee rather than a hope. You develop the confidence to pivot when data changes without ego crash because you're not attached to being right, you're committed to getting results. Your identity shifts from someone who works hard to someone who makes things happen predictably. The compound effect accelerates over time. Decisions that once required conscious force become unconscious mastery. The cognitive load of execution drops as your systems mature. You start operating from a place of calm confidence rather than frantic effort. Here's the stunning realization that awaits you. Success isn't about working harder or being smarter than everyone else. It's about building systems that make you smarter and more effective with every cycle. It's about creating momentum that feeds on itself, generating more energy than it consumes. You now possess something most people never develop: a complete operating system for turning ambitious goals into inevitable outcomes. Not through willpower or luck, but through systematic execution that improves itself automatically. The grit engine ensures you never quit. The goal targets ensure you never drift. The identity shift ensures execution feels natural. The if-then armor ensures chaos can't derail you. The WOOP power ensures obstacles become stepping stones. The gradient pull ensures motivation stays high. The Keystone moves ensure small changes create massive results. The 4DX drive ensures you stay focused on what matters most. And now, the feedback loop ensures you get better at all of it with every passing day. You're no longer hoping for success. You're engineering it. You're no longer competing on effort. You're competing on systems. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You're the architect of your own inevitable victory. The question isn't whether you'll achieve your goals. The question is how quickly you'll outgrow them and set bigger ones. Because once you've built a machine that turns ambition into autopilot execution, there's literally no ceiling on what becomes possible. Now go build something extraordinary. The world is waiting to see what you'll create when grit meets system, when passion meets precision, when dreams meet disciplined execution. Your future self is counting on you to start today.